The world of the Whispering Woods was just waking up. The sun painted the sky with soft, warm colors, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, making them sound like they were sharing tiny, happy secrets. High up in the very tallest, coziest oak tree, in a snug little hole lined with soft moss, a little squirrel was stretching his sleepy limbs. He had fluffy brown fur and a twitchy little nose that was always sniffing for adventure. But most of all, he was known for his wonderfully bushy tail, which swished and swooshed behind him like a fluffy cloud. This little squirrel was feeling especially happy this morning. His tummy was giving a little grumbly, rumbly reminder that it was time for breakfast. Not just any breakfast, but the most delicious, crunchy, perfect acorns that he had stored away in his secret pantry. He could almost taste them. So, with a heart full of excitement, he scampered to the corner of his home where he kept his very best treasures. But when he got there, his little heart gave a worried flutter. The spot was empty. His pantry, which should have been full of yummy acorns, had nothing but a few dusty old leaves. The little squirrel's whiskers drooped. He felt a big, sad feeling growing in his chest. He was sure, absolutely sure, he had saved some for today. He scratched his little head, trying to remember. Perhaps he had hidden them somewhere else. He decided he must have, and that a grand adventure to find them was just what he needed. So, the little squirrel poked his head out of his tree hole. He looked left, he looked right, and then, with a mighty leap, he launched himself onto a long, wobbly branch. The branch bounced under his tiny feet, making a soft boing-boing sound that was quite fun. He scurried down the rough bark of the tree, his sharp little claws making a soft scritch-scratch sound as he went. Finally, he landed on the soft, cool earth of the forest floor with a gentle thump. The forest floor was a whole new world. The grass was dewy and tickled his paws. The air smelled of damp earth and sweet flowers. He began his search, looking under ferns and behind big, bumpy rocks. He sniffed the air, hoping to catch the nutty, wonderful smell of his lost acorns. But he found nothing. He searched near the babbling brook, where the water giggled as it tripped over smooth, shiny stones. Still, he found nothing. His tummy gave another loud, sad rumble. The little squirrel sat down on a mossy stone, his bushy tail curling around him. He was starting to feel very, very lost and very, very hungry. This was not the fun adventure he had imagined. Just as a tiny tear threatened to roll down his furry cheek, a soft, shimmering light appeared right in front of his nose. It wasn't a bright, flashy light, but a gentle golden glow. The light danced and twinkled, and from within it came the kindest, wisest voice the little squirrel had ever heard. It was the voice of the forest guardian, a magical spirit who watched over all the creatures of the Whispering Woods. The guardian's voice was like the ringing of a tiny, distant bell, mixed with the rustle of ancient pages. It explained to the sad little squirrel that his acorns were not lost, but had been safely gathered by the guardian herself. She told him they were no ordinary acorns, but magical counting acorns, each one holding a tiny spark of forest magic. She said that to get them back, he would need to prove he was clever and ready. He would have to go on a special quest, a counting quest, to find them. The little squirrel's eyes grew wide with wonder. A quest. His heart beat a little faster, this time with excitement instead of worry. The guardian's voice continued, explaining the rules. He would have to journey through the Whispering Woods and find 5 hidden acorns. But he couldn't just find them. He had to find them in order. He had to find the first one, then the second, then the third, then the fourth, and finally the 5th. And to help him, he would have to listen very, very carefully and learn to count. A shimmering golden path suddenly appeared on the ground, lighting up the moss and the roots. It sparkled invitingly. The guardian told him this path would lead the way, but only his new counting skills would reveal the hiding places. The little squirrel took a deep breath, puffed out his little chest, and with a new sense of brave purpose, he put his first tiny foot onto the glowing path. It felt warm and tingly under his paw. The adventure had begun. The golden path led him deep into a part of the woods he had never seen before. The trees here were very tall, and their leaves whispered louder, sharing important secrets. The path twisted and turned until it stopped right in front of a giant, gnarled old tree stump. The stump was covered in the softest, greenest moss the little squirrel had ever seen. It looked like a perfect fluffy pillow, and sitting on top of this mossy pillow was a single, perfect brown acorn. It had a little cap that looked like a tiny hat. The little squirrel's nose twitched with excitement. This was it. The first acorn. He remembered what the guardian had said. He had to count. He looked at the acorn. It was all alone on that big mossy stump. He pointed his little paw at it. "Can you count with the little squirrel? Let's count together. Ready? 1. There is one acorn. One shiny, perfect acorn all by itself. The moment he understood, something magical happened. The single acorn began to glow with a soft, warm golden light, just like the path. It hummed a happy little hum. The little squirrel carefully picked it up. It felt smooth and solid in his paw. He had found the first magical counting acorn. He felt a burst of pride. He was learning. He tucked the precious acorns safely into a pouch he made by curling his bushy tail. It was a perfect fluffy carrying bag. The golden path glowed a little brighter, encouraging him, and then continued on, leading him away from the mossy stump. The little squirrel followed, his steps feeling lighter and happier. He was doing it. He was on a real quest. The path led him next to the giggling meadow, a wide-open space filled with colourful flowers that seemed to nod and chuckle in the breeze. The air smelled of honey and pollen. The golden path weaved through the tall grass and stopped right at the edge of a small, clear puddle left over from the morning dew. And there, sitting side by side on a flat, grey stone, as if they were the best of friends, were 2 beautiful yellow butterflies. Their wings were like bright, sunny petals, opening and closing slowly. The little squirrel looked at them. He knew this was his next challenge. He had to count. But these weren't acorns. He thought for a moment. The forest guardian wanted him to learn to count, and counting could be for all sorts of things. He looked at the 2 butterflies, dancing together in the gentle air. "Can you help the little squirrel count the butterflies? Let's count them together. Look! 1, 2. 1, 2 beautiful butterflies. They are a pair." As soon as he counted them, the 2 butterflies did something amazing. They fluttered together, their wings touching, and in a soft poof of golden sparkles, they transformed. Where the 2 butterflies had been, now there were 2 glowing acorns sitting side by side on the stone. They hummed their happy hum, the second one a slightly different note than the first. The little squirrel gently picked up both acorns. They were a little lighter than the first, as if they still held some of the butterfly's lightness. He carefully added them to the growing collection in his tail pouch. He now had 1, and then 2 more. That felt like a lot. He was feeling so clever. But the golden path was already moving on, leading him toward a new sound. It was a gentle bubbling, splashing sound. The path led him right to the bank of the babbling brook. The water was so clear he could see every little pebble at the bottom. The path stopped at a small, sandy spot on the bank, and there, hopping right out of the water, were 3 lively little green frogs. They had big, curious eyes, and they sat on 3 large, smooth lily pads that floated by the edge. Plop! 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 The frogs blinked their big eyes at the little squirrel. They didn't croak, but they seemed to be waiting. The little squirrel knew what to do. This was the next counting challenge. He looked at the 3 friendly frogs. "It's counting time again. Can you count the frogs with the little squirrel? Let's point to each one. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 cheerful frogs on their lily pad boats. The 3 frogs gave a happy, synchronized hop. And as they landed, each one vanished in a small, watery plink of golden light. And on each lily pad, a glowing acorn appeared. 3 acorns all in a row. The little squirrel was getting really good at this. He gathered up the 3 new acorns. They felt cool and a little damp, like the brook itself. He placed them with the others in his tail. 1, 2, 3, plus the 3 new ones. His pouch was getting nicely full. He had found 1 acorn on the stump, 2 from the butterflies, and 3 from the frogs. He was learning so much. But the quest was not over yet. The golden path led him away from the cheerful brook, deeper into the woods where the trees grew closer together. The little squirrel followed bravely. Soon he heard a new sound, a gentle rhythmic tapping. Tap, tap. Tap, tap. The path led him to a tall old pine tree, and on the trunk of this tree, a splendid woodpecker with a bright red head was busy tapping away. But she wasn't alone. On a branch just below her, 4 tiny fuzzy woodpecker chicks peered out of a small, neat hole in the tree. They were waiting for their meal, their little beaks opening and closing silently. The mother woodpecker had 4 bugs in her beak. The little squirrel looked up. He knew this was his next test. He had to count the chicks. They were small and moved around a lot, but he could do it. Let's count the woodpecker babies. This might be tricky because they are moving. Ready? 1 little head, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 hungry baby birds. The mother woodpecker seemed to nod her head. She dropped the bugs for her chicks, and then she tapped the tree 4 times with her beak. With each tap, a tiny glowing acorn popped out of the bark and landed softly on a bed of pine needles below. 4 perfect acorns. The little squirrel scurried over and collected them. They smelled faintly of pine trees, fresh and clean. He added them to his collection. He had so many acorns now. He was doing wonderfully. He felt proud and smart. He had counted everything perfectly. The golden path glowed brightly, seeming very pleased with him. It led him on one last stretch to the very heart of the whispering woods. Here the air was still and quiet, full of magic. The path ended at a beautiful ancient stone archway covered in ivy. This was the Sunbeam Gate, the Guardian had called it, but the gate was closed. Carved into the stone arch were 5 small, empty holes, arranged in a row. The little squirrel understood immediately. This was the final challenge. To open the gate and finish his quest, he had to place his acorns into the holes. But he had to put them in the right order. He had to remember the order he found them in. He had to count them out. He took a deep breath. He uncurled his tail, and all his beautiful glowing acorns tumbled out into a small pile. They shimmered and hummed. He looked at the holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He looked at his acorns. He had to find the very first one he discovered. Can you help him remember? What was first? The first was the one all by itself on the mossy stump. He found it. He picked up that single special acorn and carefully placed it into the first hole. It fit perfectly and glowed with a steady, warm light. Next was the second hole. What came next? After the one, he found the 2 acorns from the butterflies. He found those 2 and placed them both into the second hole. Wait, no. That didn't feel right. The holes were for 1 acorn each. He thought hard. He had found 2 acorns at once, but they were the second step in his counting. He needed 1 acorn to represent the number 2. He looked at his pile and saw that each of his acorns glowed a slightly different colour. The ones from the butterflies had a sunny yellow glow. He picked one of them and placed it in the second hole. It fit. It glowed a bright yellow. Now for the third hole. Third, he had found the 3 acorns from the frogs. He chose one that had a cool blue-green glow and placed it in the third hole. It glowed beautifully. The fourth hole was next. Fourth, he had found the 4 acorns from the woodpecker tree. He selected one that had a fresh pine-scented glow and placed it in the 4th hole. It lit up with a green light. Now there was 1 hole left, the 5th hole, and the little squirrel looked at his pile of acorns. But he had no acorns left. He had found 1, then 2, then 3, then 4. That was only 4 steps. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4? He had 10 acorns in total, but he had only been on 4 adventures. He was missing the 5th step. He needed 1 more acorn to represent the number 5. He had forgotten to find the 5th acorn. The little squirrel's heart sank. He was so close. How could he have missed it? He looked around, worried. What was the 5th thing? The Guardian said he had to find 5 acorns. He had found many, but he needed one for the number 5. He thought back. He had counted 1 thing, then 2 things, then 3 things, then 4 things. He never found 5 of anything. He felt a little confused and sad. Had he failed? Just then, he heard the gentle chiming voice of the forest guardian all around him. It reminded him that the most important part of counting is to always make sure you have everything you need. It asked him to look at his pile of acorns on the ground. How many acorns did he have left there? He had used 1 for the first hole, 1 for the second, 1 for the third, and one for the fourth. How many were still left in the pile? The little squirrel looked down. The acorns were all mixed together, glowing softly. He had to count them. He pointed his paw. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He had 6 acorns left, but he needed one for the 5th hole. He was sure he had collected them all. Then he had a brilliant thought. He didn't need a new acorn, he already had them. The 5th step was right here. He just had to count what was in front of him. He carefully moved the 6 remaining acorns into a neat row. He pointed to each one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 5 acorns right here. No, he had 6. Let's try again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 acorns! But there was one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh dear. He was getting a little mixed up. So, he decided to do it very, very slowly. He moved one acorn away from the group. He pointed to the group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 acorns. And the one he moved away was a 6th one. He had 5 in the group and 1 extra. He had 6 altogether. But for the 5th hole, he only needed 1 acorn to represent the number 5. He could choose any one of them. He felt so clever for figuring it out. He picked up one beautiful acorn from the group of 5. It glowed with a happy rainbow light, and he placed it into the 5th and final hole in the Sunbeam Gate. The moment the 5th acorn clicked into place, the entire stone archway exploded with light. Golden beams shot out, weaving through the ivy. The 5 acorns in the holes shone like little suns. With a deep grinding rumble that felt more magical than scary, the great stone gate began to swing open. The little squirrel covered his eyes with his paws. The light was so bright. When the light faded, he peeked through his fingers. The gate was gone. And right there, right in front of him, was his own familiar oak tree. The golden path had led him right back home. And there, sitting on the root of the tree, was a beautiful woven basket. And inside the basket were heaps and heaps of the most wonderful, crunchy, perfect acorns he had ever seen. There were way more than he started with. There must have been 20 or even 30. They sparkled with a happy, non-magical but very delicious crunch. The little squirrel's heart swelled with happiness. He had done it. He had completed the counting quest. He was home, he was safe, and he had a feast fit for a king. He was no longer just a little squirrel. He was a clever counting squirrel. He sat down by his basket, picked up a giant acorn and crunched into it. It was the best taste in the whole world. He felt proud of himself for being so brave and so smart. He had learned to count, and it had helped him solve his big problem. As he ate, the gentle voice of the forest guardian filled the air one last time, praising him for his wonderful counting and his brave, persevering heart. The voice faded away, leaving the little squirrel with his delicious thoughts and his even more delicious acorns. He was so full and happy that he decided to share his good fortune. He took a few acorns and left them out on a big flat stone for his friends, the butterflies, the frogs, the woodpeckers, to enjoy. Sharing his treasure felt even better than finding it. The sun began to set, painting the whispering woods in shades of orange and purple. The little squirrel, with a full tummy and a happy heart, scurried back up his tree. He curled up in his soft, mossy bed, his bushy tail wrapped around him like a blanket. As he drifted off to sleep, the leaves outside whispered a lullaby, and the little squirrel dreamed of numbers, adventures, and baskets full of endless acorns. What shall we learn about in our next adventure? Will we learn about all the wonderful shapes we can find in the clouds? Or maybe we'll learn about our feelings and how to name them when our hearts feel big. Join us next time in the Whispering Woods to find out. Moral core, perseverance and clever problem solving lead to reward, and sharing your success makes it even sweeter.